Are you stuck in the same old routine at work? Do you find yourself hitting a creative wall, unable to see beyond your current perspective? It's time to break free and unlock the power of fresh perspectives. David Guthrow, Discover Fresh Perspectives, and today we're going to discover some from Bruce Scheer. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey, David. Glad to be here.
So I'm glad to have you with me, Bruce. A nice thing about doing this in the way we are is we don't need to be in the same room, and you're down south of the border.
That's right.
So, Bruce, one of the things that we're going to talk about that you're passionate about is charisma. So let's start light here. When someone says charisma, what's the first image or person that pops into your head?
Oh, boy. Really popularly right now, Superman, I think,
Oh,
David.
yeah.
Yeah, he shows up with a lot of sass and charisma. Absolutely.
Excellent. And maybe we should back up a bit and say, so how do you define charisma?
How do you find it? Is the
Define
question?
it. Define it. Yeah.
Oh, define it. The way I think about it, David, is just how you choose to show up and what are you exuding to others. That's how I think about charisma.
Okay, and now use it in your business practice. So maybe you can just tell us a little about what your business is and why you focused on charisma.
Well, my business is called Value Pros. And the problem we solve for is what I call the value disconnect. And the value disconnect comes when sellers show up speaking geek speak,
Hmm.
speeds, and hey, let me show you what I've got to sell you. I can't wait to demo this for you. That's the mentality and mindset, and they bring that in front of what I call the C-suite. And the C-suite's thinking about the challenges. They're probably thinking about trying to keep their job and all the commitments they made to the board of directors, and they're seeking outcomes. So when a seller shows up with geek speak that doesn't connect with the C-suite, that's what I call the value disconnect.
Okay.
Now, I got fixated on charisma, David, as I got a lot of feedback and I wanted to elevate my own personal charisma. And so I started doing an intense amount of research about that. And the more I did, the more I learned. And then the more I, looked at others with a very judgmental lens going, wow, the rest of the world is not showing up in a charismatic way at all, especially as we moved into the pandemic and everybody was showing up on Zoom and the world went virtual, which it still is primarily virtual. And so many people don't show up and make the right first impression. And I kind of got fixated on that. And back to that problem that we solved for, the value disconnect, David, most sellers show up, I even argue like criminals, and I even want to, get on a plane and go break them out of their cell because, they're locked up and they sound really bad. Voices reverberating around the hollow room. And, they've got this blank wall behind them that's scary too. And, just say everything's, off. And if you want to connect and sell value, gosh, I learned, David, that people form an impression within a nanosecond to 4 seconds. That's how much time you've got to create an impression and show up in a very charismatic way. And if you don't, very often you don't get a second chance, especially with busy executives that took time out of their schedule to meet with you. You drop the ball, boom, that ship sails.
So, do you think that that people are born charismatic, or is that something that they can work on?
I think probably a combination of both, but I truly believe it's something people can work on. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I would love to share with your audience some very practical tips for how to think about all this and how to show up with charisma.
So let's go into that in just a minute. One of the things that I get concerned about, and I'm not sure if this is a myth or an illusion or something like that, but sometimes I hear people say, well, he or she, they're really charismatic, but it doesn't necessarily imply that they're competent. Like competence and charisma don't always seem to go hand in glove. And I just wonder if you care to comment on that.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I'd love to. So, our human brains and just the way we are, we sense things and we need to, understand, hey, Can I hang out and have a meal, or am I going to be the meal? Do I need to run as fast as possible? So our brains are designed to make some snap judgments. And that's what happens, when we're judging if somebody's charismatic, we're doing that within a nanosecond to 4 seconds, based on which study you happen to look at. And another study I saw gives you 7 seconds, but you just have seconds to make an impression and let people know, hey, or you were talking to and engaging with or not. And so, anyways, that's just the way it is. And there's two
Mm.
concepts that I learned through all my research, David: the halo effect and then the horn effect. And the halo effect is this: if you show up in a charismatic way, you'll have a halo around your head. People will see that halo, and then cognitive bias kicks in. So anything you say or do, that human that you're engaging with is going to go, it's going to reinforce their first impression.
Okay.
So say I show up in a business shirt like I am today, nice collar, hair in place, etc., good lighting. I'm showing up in a way that might make a positive first impression. And what is that? I want people to perceive that I'm smart, I'm enthusiastic, full of energy, and I'm knowledgeable. I'm an expert. I'm somebody that they could trust. I'm trying to get that across within a few seconds. But the neat thing is, if I do that in just a few seconds, anything else that happens, it's going to reinforce that I'm smart, I'm enthusiastic, I bring the energy, and I'm an expert. I'm knowledgeable. And that must be self reinforcing. But if I show up, disheveled, bad shirt, hair all over the place, one the glass is broken, the other one's okay, lighting's horrible, etc., I'm going to send a bad signal that, hey, this guy's unorganized. I can't trust this dude. He's not credible. I'm going to be sending a lot of these different signals within those first 4 seconds. That's why I call the horn effect. So anything I do past that point, it's just going to be self-reinforcing through cognitive bias that, yeah, Bruce is unorganized. He's not professional. I can't trust this guy. So again, that's the horn effect that follows.
So I'm curious, and I could see how that works. The first impression it's created is the one that's likely to last. However, I wonder what happens if you come in and everything looks great, and as soon as the person opens their mouth, it's pretty clear that he or she is all image, no substance.
Or as the British might say, all mouth, no trousers.
Yeah, or you talked about cognitive bias, but also cognitive dissonance, where wait a minute, this person looks this way, and I'm just not getting the sense that there's anything inside that suit, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Impressions can be changed, of course. Often you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You're done. Life moves on, especially in my world where, sellers are trying to sell high ticket items. They get one shot, one moment of truth. Blow it, they're done. Or, maybe they're lucky. Maybe they get a second chance. And then they can write that negative first impression and make it right. Rarely happens. But again, it happens so fast. But you're seeing that, hey, if somebody, the second they open their mouth, then they don't have substance. Here's a really fun study for you that I'd like to cite around this. Um, USC did a study around professors on the stage. And what they found was when the audio was bad, the professors were deemed less credible, their findings less trustworthy, and just not
Mhm.
all that interesting. Versus if the audio was good, hey, that's a solid prof. I love their study. Great results, great findings. So, and there was another study during the pandemic when courts had to go to Zoom, virtual courts.
Mhm.
What they found was with witnesses, if the audio was bad on witnesses, they were less
Mm.
credible, less trustworthy than witnesses that had good audio.
You
And
know,
and a lot of the brains are making these snap judgments unconsciously. They're not even conscious that they're making that assessment. And so, anyways, if they showed up like you stated originally, hey, they look
Mhm.
polished, they look incredible, charismatic, but they open their mouth, something had to go really wrong there within those first few seconds.
So a couple of things occur to me, and one is I've actually witnessed that myself at a TEDx event. that was done at a university, and that was all like professors and things like that speaking mostly, and the sound was bad. And I couldn't help but discount. I mean, it's really the organizers of the event that didn't check it out, but also had an impact on the people that were speaking in terms of my perception of them. And I remember when I was going across the country speaking to a number of different groups about the difference between being a keynote speaker and a facilitator. Said, as a keynote speaker, you have to make a good first impression because people can stay mad at you for 45 minutes. If you're a facilitator and you're working with them for a day, there's at least a chance to recover, right? But that first impression is so very important.
Yeah, yeah. A keynote speaker during the pandemic, we had, one of our Top Gun speakers come on for the NSA community. I stuck around for 5 minutes. Said,
Right.
no way in hell am I going to suffer through this thing? Bad audio.
Hmm.
Yeah, just
So I have one more question. Then I want to hear about the framework that you were talking about. And the question is this: Have have you ever seen charisma backfire or be misunderstood?
yeah.
I mean, maybe if it wasn't, it wouldn't be considered charisma, but something where it just totally backfired.
Well, or here's something that's kind of interesting. I've been talking to my son or actually my three sons about this because I want them to show up charisma. And also, I want them to, one is working on growing his business.
Mhm,
He's very high performing. He's like, it's going, Dad, I want this wisdom because I want to
mhm,
connect with potential clients and be like, unlike others. And he's been winning client engagement big
mhm,
time. And he does believe that he shows up unlike others. He's a 28-year-old. He's competing with people in their 60s, but
mhm,
they're showing up with cruddy Zoom, bad audio, and everything. And he's showing up with the plant and the books and a couple of awards won. And he's showing up completely polished,
mhm,
ready to
mhm,
connect with people. And it's working out really, really well. The only time I'd say where there's misfires is if you're typically in person, you got to read the room. And my middle son's so smart because he works in an office context, but he oversees contracts and contractors on behalf of the city of Seattle. So when he's out on job sites, he puts on a flannel shirt and he still shows up, probably the best
mhm,
dressed guy on the lot, but he's not overdressed.
right,
He's pacing with his audience.
mhm,
But I
mhm.
see that mispacing. Somebody shows up in flip flops and shorts, and everybody else is wearing suits. Hey, that doesn't work all that well. You want to pace well with your audience.
So okay, so that's one aspect of charisma
Yeah.
as being appropriate. So, Bruce, you talked about, I'm not sure if you said it was a formula or an approach that you had, and I'd love for our listeners to be able to hear that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to share it. I do think it's powerful. I'm getting really good feedback on this as well. I was on another podcast with a guy who's just been living in this space for so long and helping people become better communicators and carry themselves better. And,
Mm.
and he thought it was really profound as well. But it
Oh,
and one of the big
you've set my expectations now, Bruce. So
Well,
come
one of the
on.
big reasons is it's awfully simple. I was trying to come up with an acronym, a mnemonic that would be easy to remember.
Mhm,
So the model that I've invented, it's called the brave model. And you want to show up and be brave when you show up. And my catchphrase for this, David, is people trust the brave.
hmm,
So you want to show up brave. But yeah, there's a bigger why behind this that I'd love to mention just for a second. I do believe you want to show up on purpose with presence
mhm,
for others. And I've debated that with my middle son
mhm,
extensively because we get into this, oh, Dad, I don't want to dress up because that's inauthentic, or I don't want to cut my hair because I'm not being the authentic me. And I'm like just going, okay, you be you. But, just as long as it's on your purpose,
mhm.
it's important to you, son. It's your world, it's your life, it's got to be your purpose. but I'd love for you to show up with presence for others so you can connect with them. Because I know you want to serve others in the world, right? He's like, oh, hell yeah, dad. Well, so you're showing up for others, but, be on purpose with presence for others. Just that simple. But then from there, that's the big why. From there, people trust the brave and use the brave
Mhm.
framework for how to think about how to show up with charisma. Again, making that positive first impression within the first 4 seconds. So that
And Bruce, just sorry to interrupt for a sec, but for those of you that are listening, I'll make sure that the formula or the acronym is posted in the program notes. So after you've heard this, so don't drive off the road writing this down.
okay.
We'll make it available to you. Sorry, Bruce. Please carry on.
Absolutely, David. So B for brave. What does a B stand for? It's body language.
Hmm.
So, how you carry yourself is truly critical in how you're perceived as part of this whole framework and how to show up with charisma. So, are your shoulders, back or hunched? Is your chin in? Are you holding yourself high? I got to witness my oldest son. He went from slunched over, kind of, not looking all that well to national rower in high school level. And I just watched his personal transformation. He really wanted that to happen for himself, was waking up at 5:30 in the morning, running every day, doing daily doubles in his practice, rowing practice. But also got to witness him carry himself, his shoulders back, chest out, really showing up with the right body language. Just a beautiful transformation. And I wish that for so many, if they can do that.
So, Bruce, I'll probably keep interrupting because, like, it's a conversation as opposed to a formal interview. I hope that that's okay.
Yeah,
So, I'm curious about that body language. So, did that erect posture come as a result of his confidence from rowing,
absolutely.
or like which came first?
Yeah, he grew into that with
Okay.
his confidence from rowing, the results he was getting, everything he was able to internally manifest
Mm.
external. I do believe all this starts with mindset, and so he was getting a mindset of a winner and showing up like that as well, and in a beautiful way, not overstated, just forthright and ready, totally.
Because I'm just thinking we're probably not all going to try to get brave by being rowers, but the principle is there's something that can help you build the confidence so you carry that body language forward with you.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. I know a guy who's 70, lives 2 islands up from me. He's bench pressing now 245 pounds and,
Wow.
showing pictures of himself and he's happy and proud of that. And, his body language is incredible as a result of that. But you'll see people walking down the street, slunched over, things aren't right in their life. And that's not charismatic, sadly,
Yeah.
for them and for everyone else that they might want to be impacting. So, the other aspect of body language that I'd love to mention is speaking with hands. And I've been doing that with you a little bit, but believe it or not, memory recall. I just saw a study that recall goes up 30% if you use hands when you're speaking and
Wow.
making your points. So that's part of body language, just how expressive you are.
Cool. So we've got body language. Now, based on what I recall from my grade 9 spelling, the letter R is next.
Absolutely, good job. So R is for respect,
Mm.
and are you showing up in a way that's respectful towards others? Are you leaning in? Are you posturing that you're interested? Have you ever heard the phrase, "If you want to be interesting, be interested"?
Right.
And you can do that through your body language, through the questions you ask, using someone's name. I encourage, when you want to connect with others with charisma, do a little homework on the others.
Mhm.
Look LinkedIn profile. Take 2 minutes, do a little, quick, AI ChatGPT search and, figure out who it is I'm meeting with, what are they doing today, what's their past, what are they up to, and then that gives you some hooks for engaging with them and demonstrating is the most important thing.
Okay. So we've got body language, respect, and now.
Now we're looking at an A, and the A is for aesthetic.
Hmm.
So the aesthetic aspect of this, a big, huge component of showing up and connecting with charisma, making that first positive first impression is appearance. So how do you appear as a person? You know, the clothes you wear, the car you drive, the home you live in, you know, whatever, wherever you're, whatever is part of that appearance that your audience sees. That's sending lots of different signals. In the world of virtual, your background is such a
Hmm.
huge
Hmm.
factor that nobody's aware of. You know, which really blows me away. I just came off of a Zoom call where I saw two blurred backgrounds, two virtual screens that were all kind of pixelated and you know not doing so well, and just I think one or two natural backgrounds, including myself, and one of the natural backgrounds wasn't tidy and not lit well,
Hmm.
and you know so just
Hmm.
you know, my goodness, if people could look at their background as part of their overarching aesthetic, especially in virtual meetings,
Hmm.
that would be a huge win for most of the world.
Okay. Body language, respect, aesthetic. R.
And,
The
well,
pirate
one thing,
letter.
David, I wanted to
R.
mention as part of aesthetic and also body language, the resting face. When you're on meetings, David, and when you're looking at other little chiclets on this on the Zoom screen, some individuals' resting faces aren't doing well. You know,
Huh.
and they're probably not aware of it. Um, you know, one of my friends, she writes for magazines. She has a viewership, an audience of millions per month.
Hmm.
Her resting face in Zoom meetings is not pleasant. Nobody's sent her a memo or anything like that, and that's really it's just a big mess.
Hmm.
Yeah, at one point in time, David, I was out in Singapore attending as a learner in a session. It was really funny. The facilitator, after our break, you know, we all came back and he goes, "Hey, I got something to share with you guys." I go, "Oh, okay, yeah, we want to hear." And he goes, "I was really curious about one of the people in this audience because they just looked mean." And during the break, I went out and watched them and people came up to them, and I even saw that yeah, that person smile and engage with people. But so I was wrong. The person just has an unfortunate face when they're not engaging with people, and you know, it's things that we don't pick up on. But you know, that's part of the aesthetic and the body language as well.
And you know what? It occurs to me that one of our friends and colleagues, Kristen Arnold, does a lot of work with panels. And that's particularly important when you're on stage as a panelist.
Mm,
Because I imagine that would just be like just totally wreck the sense of people's perception of your charisma if you're up there and you're looking bored or not.
looking for, or even some people truly look mean. You know, as they morph their face and you know, just so you just seem to be aware of it. You know, look in the mirror. What are you looking at? Like when your face is at rest. Do you need to change it?
And is there something that people can do about that, Bruce?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I just said, yeah. Look in the mirror. You know, judge
But
it for yourself, or look at a recording of your own performance, and you know how are you looking when the spotlight's not on you.
I can see a role for someone who's coaching someone to catch them on the spot because it's one thing to remember in the mirror, but it's what you do when you're in the heat of the moment that you may not be aware of it. To have someone
That
say,
too.
"Bruce,"
Yeah.
Bruce, or just to hold up a metaphorical mirror or something like that. That's
People give you that feedback, or I got feedback, David. You're bringing up an old memory for me. A guy up in Toronto said, "Bruce, I hear you breathing in a lot when you're speaking. You'll do this." And he goes, I'm worried about that because it takes away from your credibility when you breathe in. And I'm like, Scott, what a gift, man. I love you. You know, you never pull a punch. I know you care about me. Thank you. Yeah, but that is a
yeah,
gift that others can give others, giving them that feed, that
yeah.
type of feed.
That's a totally new one for me. That's very, very interesting. Okay, so body language, respect, aesthetic. resting face. And now, is there only one E or are there several E's?
Well, we didn't do V.
Oh, right.
Great.
VRA. Oh, what was the resting face? Is that part of the aesthetic?
Yeah, aesthetic, and also I linked that back to body language.
Ah, okay. All right.
So we're
Okay.
on to V,
We
and that
better
was
do a V.
little voice, my little, or other people are, right? They'll be in upwards intonation and or part of their pitch, and that will lose credibility big time with
Sorry. So
older executives.
say the V again, please, Bruce. I missed that.
Voice.
Voice. Okay.
And
Okay.
boy, one I typically emphasize with people, especially in virtual meetings, is voice. That most people show up with a very poor microphone that's part of their laptop,
Mhm.
and right out of the gate, it's really hurting them and how they're perceived by others. Hey, you've got a good one. And
And
funny enough, people with a MacBook Pro, like I'm using with you today, the microphone's outstanding on
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
comparatively to like a PC. But then, I always advise people to really up their game and invest money. My home studio, I'm using the same microphone that Michael Jackson used for his album
Oh,
Thriller,
wow. Hmm.
and because I do strive to be as cool as Michael Jackson. Cool. Uh, but you can spend less than that. I've probably got about $700 worth of equipment to make that microphone happen for me. But you can get into one for $300 to $400 that
Mhm.
does
Mhm.
beautiful work. So I do encourage people to make that investment. It really does matter.
Now, when you say voice, Bruce, one of the things that occurred to me is some people make a statement, but their voice goes up when they make the statement, so it's more sounds like a question or something
Exactly.
they're unsure of. Is that part of the voice piece as well?
And that's what it is, and that's where you lose, credibility big
Okay.
time on word swing because you're creating doubt typically when you're doing that. Um, I talk about the 4 Ps of voice. Is there power in your voice? Do you make a point and land that point? Is there, your pacing? Are you fast or
Mm.
slow? Your pitch, and you talked about how ending your sentence with an upward question like ending, and that often doesn't work well. Um, Trying to think if there's anything composites. Do you pause when you
Mm.
speak? Power, pitch, pace, and pause are the 4 Ps that I typically ask people to be more conscious of as they're trying to use the most beautiful instrument that they have, their voice.
Okay, so I've got body language, respect, aesthetic. The resting face ties into both aesthetic and body language, as you said. We've got V for voice, on to E.
E, that's engagement.
Uh,
So are you actively engaging with others? Especially like for virtual meetings, David, when I come in and there's a lot of people and I recognize people, I'm really quick. Hey, David, how are you? Or hey, glad you could make it. Or I'm constantly trying
mm,
to people, especially using their name, just to engage them, bring them in. The other thing I do, your audience wouldn't see this, but I often, David, I think I've probably showed you some things, but I'm constantly using visuals as I'm speaking, little doodle types of visuals.
mm,
That's another way to create visual engagement. And that's super important, especially in, virtual settings, so people don't
mm.
multitask, where you do have focus and attention by mixing things up.
Yeah, I certainly find that, one person says speaking at people for an hour, if there's 200 people in the room and all they get is one person's voice at them, um, they're choosing to, use or ignore or whatever. The value often comes, or the greater value comes when someone is asked a question where they have to think about what you just said. then they're more likely to do something with it. So using those questions to engage people more fully. Of course, when you're in person, there's many other ways to do it. But I think a lot of people get lazy when they're online, and it's just about getting the words out as quickly as possible, getting off the call.
Yeah. But there's so many different tricks and methods for creating that engagement, and you don't go to school for that stuff. You typically have
Mhm.
to learn it on your own. But there's lots of technique there that you can take advantage of to engage.
So, what other advice or thoughts can you offer our listeners about charisma, about the Brave model, anything like that whatsoever? And one of the things I will ask you a little bit later is, so if someone feels that they don't have the charisma, where's the starting point for them? So, first of all, what are some of the gems that you're hanging on to that I haven't asked you about yet? And then we'll come to that next question.
Well, my own journey so far, and I'm definitely not done, David. But I'm trying to up my game. So it's just a real desire. My one word um, goal for the year was energy. I added a second word to my goals for the year, and is impact. So I want to raise my energy so I can impact the energy of others and ultimately create a lot of impact through that process. But I've been thinking since last year, I need to, manifest. I need to, show up in a more energetic way, connect with people more quickly in an incredible way in order to deliver that energy and the impact I want to have. So I've been getting a lot of feedback from people, just, hey, how can I improve? What do I need to do? For my voice, when I hop on stage, I don't trust the audio technicians anymore, David. I bring my microphone with me. I talked to our Hall of Fame speaker here at NSA Northwest, Anna Liotta, and saying, "Hey, what do I need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again?" Somebody handed me a voice microphone, a Countryman is what they call it. It
Yep.
fell off my ear, and she goes, "Oh yeah, don't do that again. Go buy this." And now it's a $1,200 microphone, but it goes over both ears. That thing's not dropping. I've got the right adapters. So I just hand it to the audio guys to go use this. And they're like, oh, okay, wow. And then I'm sending the signal, I care. And then
Right.
they're paying attention and we nail it. But I'm trying to, control more things as well as I move forward. Cause I know that it's sending a signal, it's having an impact. And I'm more conscious of it now.
So one of the things I don't know where, if at all, it fits into the model, Bruce, but I think it adds to charisma, and I'll speak to your personal charisma because I haven't interacted with you very often, but each time I find that you're always willing to offer how to help in some way. And to me, that adds to charisma because then it's not, the charisma isn't just about you. It's about a circuit that's been created between you and, in this case, me, but you and the audience.
Hmm.
And I think that's when it's, delivering more than just words, it's delivering value. And so I'm not suggesting that you change the acronym because I love, brave, but I think it's also part of charisma. I'm not sure where it fits, but certainly it's something I
I, I,
notice of you.
I'd frame it, if you can remember, I said we need to show up on purpose with presence for others.
Mhm.
That is my mindset. I'm showing up for others, but also I want to be the best I can be for others. So, at my ultimate aim is impacting others. And that's the
Well,
mindset that I would ask your audience to think about if that's what you're trying to do as well. Maybe you could take advantage of the Brave framework to up your game across those 5 dimensions to do an even better job of connecting with others with charisma.
well, I think my opinion is that charisma has to be present on stage and off because I've seen some people on stage who are incredibly charismatic doing all the things you're talking about. And they come off stage and they're just, I won't use the word on this podcast, right? They're
Yeah.
just so inconsistent with the presence that they brought to the stage. But it's not like a full time, all on presence. It's just for show as opposed to it comes from the inside out all the time.
Yeah. So, is it germane? Is it authentic? And a lot of times people can see through that. Maybe it's not for others. Well, one of our professional speakers here in the Northwest, he always says that his show starts when he leaves the house.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he's going to be on flights. He's going to be checking into the hotel. It just that whole thing. He's got the mindset for others when he leaves the house.
Hmm.
He doesn't turn
Perfect.
before the stage and turn it off after the stage.
So we've heard about what I've liked about this, Bruce. We've talked about charisma. You've talked about how it relates to your two sons, which is great to take it out of the business environment. I think that makes it more accessible. You've talked about the importance of body language, respect, aesthetic, and voice, where you talked about both about power, pace, pitch, and pause, and then about engagement. So that's a really great formula, and it's easy to remember. If you wanted listeners to take away one thing from this that they could start doing or thinking about, what would that be?
I would say they should look at the show notes after they listen to this show and get this whole guide that I put together for them. And then marinate in that. And I think that would be my one piece of advice. Spend a little bit of time, do it for yourself. And I've created this beautiful little, kind of a workbookish type thing. It's highly visual,
Mhm.
not too dense. I did create it in dark mode, so you could use it to go to sleep at night if you want. But spend a little bit of time with it. I hope you enjoy and are amazed by how people react to you as you connect with others.
So, just as a note, and I should have said this at the beginning, this podcast is not for people who feel that they are the best they can possibly be and they're quite comfortable and there's no opportunity for learn. This was not for you. This is for people that actually feel that they'd like to get better at something, and being more charismatic might get them more of what they deserve and work hard for in life. So, I would like to thank you so much for being here with me in this conversation today, Bruce. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, David. Yeah, it's a blast. I appreciate it too.
So, this is David Guthrow of Discover Fresh Perspectives. Next week, there'll be some more. But for right now, I'd like to thank Bruce. I'd like to all of you to look in the mirror as you're driving, but don't stop. Be careful and think about your own charisma and how you can intentionally become more charismatic. Thank you. Subscribe now, because on Fresh Perspectives, every episode is an opportunity to explore new horizons and redefine what's achievable.